That's where you
What's
get
your
the
favourite
debate.
sports team? Same conversation.
Liverpool Football Club.
I follow both sets of Warriors. Golden State Warriors, Auckland Warriors. I started Golden State in 2015, watching that amazing team, and be like, wow, this looks good. And it made it difficult to watch basketball for a couple of years after that, because everyone else plays so like messy.
Yeah.
Golden State was like, "Voo, voo, voo, voo. We're so smart. And then the Warriors, I got on board with the up the wires year.
Yes.
So I'm just like, I just get on the bandwagon.
It's so good to get excited about a sports team, though, when everyone else is excited.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So good.
It's like a band, same thing.
Yes.
There's a big difference between like 20 people at Space Academy and 150 people. And that sense of excitement. It's like, when a band's on its up, I can get on board this. Like kids getting excited about ringlets. Kids, fuck.
Kind of, though, kids.
Yes.
It was buzzy at Junk. I was like, the crowd was like, for a pop gig, they were like jumping up and down and singing along to this. I was like, I did not imagine this was going to be the crowd for ringlets.
It's mainly the Wellington people.
They got taste. Joel, welcome to the Mount Noise podcast.
Kia ora. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming down and bringing bands with you.
Technically up.
Yeah, I
We
guess
came
so
from
today.
Dunedin.
Yeah, sure.
In a micro up, in a macro it's down.
I'm glad we're keeping it current for the listeners.
Yeah.
I haven't asked you this question before. It's a great place to start. Like, can you tell me what you were up to at the start of EYEGUM? Like, why you were there at the start of EYEGUM?
Well, originally it was an excuse for my band Big Rick to appear bigger than we were, to be part of something bigger than we were. Cool. It's that classic thing which I quite dislike of bands pretending to be a promotion collective or group.
Right.
So we were putting on some not house party, like Christmas parties. I think like one of the first gigs we started putting together was like an indie year party with like 10 bands. And was that EYEGUM? But anyway, it was around that space. So that's what drove EYEGUM, in part because we saw at the time that the scene was not strong. And so again, it was trying to get excitement, build things up. Ultimately, what we found out is that like the bar scene wasn't good, and that I think that was holding back excitement at the time. They weren't exciting places to be. They weren't fun places to be. So we went through the house party scene that we did for about a year. Did about 55 house parties in about a year. And that at that phase got excitement rolling. Obviously, we've had multiple phases of excitement since.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just roll back a little bit. So it starts as a kind of excuse thing. There's two things that I thought were interesting there. One, like, did you actually sit around and be like, we're conscious that it's bad down here, and we consciously understand that the bars are part of why it's bad, and like intentionally we're like, we're gonna do something different? Were there actual conversations like that, or did you kind of, was it a bit more fluid? You landed in the house party space and they were like, this is way better, let's carry on?
Both.
Okay.
So I don't know. I would be interested to hear from other people how much I externalized the thoughts I was having.
Okay,
So
yeah.
for me, it's really clear. I was like, yeah, totally. All right. There was an awareness. We did talk about it. We were aware of it. And the circle that we moved in. So I mean, the original bands. There was a band called Soviet Space Dog, Big Rick, which was my band, and Mermaidens. We were the ones floating around. So that's founding members plus a couple of other peeps, Pip, Gael. I don't want to name anyone else, miss anyone else. But yeah, it was very much, it was conscious. And it was, the house party thing started because we spent all our money in our Big Rick account to bring down Sharpie Crows.
Cool.
Because Sharpie Crows were playing Auckland, and we're like, because I knew them separately, but not as a band. But I knew them separately. And I was like, they're playing a one-off gig in Auckland. I was like, why aren't you playing Wellington? They're like, buy us tickets and we'll come down. So I talked to the band, and one of our band goals was to play Sharpie Crows. So everyone's like, yes, we will spend all our money. And then we made it back. So we're like, oh, this is we can do this.
Right.
So that's how the house party thing started. So it wasn't like but what we've tried to do is look back at what we've done and sort of like learn from what we've, so a lot of it's hindsight. Nothing we've done, Welcome to Nowhere, Great Sounds Great, EYEGUM Wednesdays, house parties was ever part of a big grand plan. It was more seeing gaps, filling them, and then making sense of them as we went along.
So, yeah, because You did that. What time was that happening? Say
2013.
Right.
So 2013's like kind of like every scene has its ups and downs, and we were definitely at the bottom of a like a dip in sort of number of bands, excitement of bands. Mermaids were they were on their way up. You never know when you're on your way up out of that dip.
Yeah.
But they were the next excitement band that pulls all the other bands with them. There's always a band that everyone else gets excited about, and the other bands coming through behind. Mermaidens were that at that time. Because
it strikes me as like I meet and talk to a lot of people. I'm not in music scenes. I'm not sure in 2025 that I've met many personalities who are active now who would be like, oh, we'll pay for tickets for someone to come down, like to do the kind of business promotion side just on a whim.
But I don't think there were many people then. Like, so much of what happens is reliant on random individuals who, for whatever reason, I mean, I'd done 10 years working as a communist organizer. So like I was a very stubborn, determined fellow.
Yeah.
So I brought that into play.
Right.
But you know, like if you look at someone like Wanganui, that's a chain of individuals going back 20, 30 years who've been just like working to build the culture of that space. And in the last 4 or 5 years, it's exploded. But I remember for 10, 15 years, there was only ever one band in Wanganui, and that changed, but there's only ever one. And who that was different. It's like one band taps out, and then the next band signs on to be the band you play with from Wanganui. Now there's like 8 or 12.
I guess what I'm thinking about now is like, is there practical lessons from the start of EYEGUM and taking a scene from at the bottom of a dip to building up that would be applicable or is applicable to anyone anywhere if they were in that situation, or no? It's just kind of what works for the people that are there at the time.
It's both, but I think it's the collectivity of it makes a difference. Unless you're rich. Yeah, money. Money's a shortcut for sure. If you got money, you can bypass a lot of the work we had to do.
Yeah.
But that's where the collectivity comes in, because it's EYEGUM and all the work we've done over the years, all the work I've done, so much of it is volunteer based, and so that's where, and people, atomized individuals. It's so much harder as an atomized individual to do things, to deal with like creepy dudes, to put on events, than it is to get a bunch of people together and share that load and that responsibility.
So you did the house parties, and that made it like everyone's more willing to turn up on a whim to a house party than a bar.
It's cheaper. You pay at the time $10, and then you pay $10 for a bottle of Scrumpy. Boom, $20, you're done.
Where were you getting? I'm curious about this. Where did you get, say, like the PA in the back line, and who was like doing sound? Like, how did that work earlier?
I owned the PA. I did the sound.
Cool.
So like those are those skills. So I owned the PA. I did the sound. I paid myself enough to buy more gear and progressively buy better speakers.
Yeah.
We just kept blowing. The history of EYEGUM is progressively blowing up fewer speakers over the years. What I learned is that the more you pay, the less you buy from Surplustronics, the longer it lasts.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Those Skynet, which is a crazy band. Well, is it Skynet? Is that their brand? Anyway, it's Skynet speakers. Yeah, we had an old Jansen 200-watt PA system. That's what we started with. And the beauty of that is hand-wired, so you could blow that up repeatedly, and it was just eminently fixable.
Was there something, like the keys to finding the right venue or getting in touch with like the right houses or having that? Was there any guidelines like that you figured out from doing that many? Or
a big lounge, easy access to a toilet, 2 if possible. We'd always make 1 non-public. We wouldn't tell anyone about it, and you'd have that as the secret toilet for the flat and the bands. Because like, there's nothing worse than just having one of the band members waiting in line to go to the toilet. I mean, if you ask and say, "Hey, this is Isaac. He needs to play. Can he skip the line?" Everyone says yes, but no one wants to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So the secret toilet's always good. But it's like how big the space is. The only gig I did sound for a gig, a notorious Wellington gig where like the floor collapsed. I wasn't in charge of that. I wouldn't have put that gig on there, but I got paid to show up, so I did, and that happened. Is the house structurally sound?
Yes, it's a good one.
So on my watch, 100% no floors collapsing. So it's how big is the lounge? toilet situation, indoor-outdoor flow. Can it hold, at least 100 people? Can at least 75 people fit in the lounge? But what we found over time, so we were of the age, I'm aging myself here, we were of an age where we knew who the party flats were. We were friends with people in party flats, and we were putting on things that people in party flats quite liked the idea of hosting. So we took it out. So we made it easy. So you've got a party flat, we'll bring it along, we'll do it up. We've got a bunch of dinguses like myself who will clean up and tidy the place.
Yeah.
So our fallback house in Devon Street, which is next to what is Love Ditch, which is a notorious house party now, DIY venue now, they loved having us because we'd come in, we'd use them about every 2-3 months, and the house was always tidier than when we came in.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so one more element of this is like the coalescing of a group in terms of like the people who are putting energy into the scene. Was it an outreach, like an earnest direct, like, hey, come be a part of this thing and work and do the cleanups and do the stuff, we want to build this thing? Or did it just kind of put a flag in the ground and then you found those people just kind of coalesce to you?
Both. Yeah. I mean, what we found, and I used to get really hung up about vibe and feel and like people being on board. But what I found out ultimately is that people who display a capacity to work and have a work ethic, that's the threshold. Once they do that, so the amount of people we got on board from they would just volunteer on the door. Their desire to be part of a crew and a team, and seeing. I think one of the things with EYEGUM, right up to Welcome to Nowhere, is that we're very transparent about the volunteer. I don't want to say amateur because I think we got pretty good at what we did by the end of it, but it was very much by the people for the people. And so when that's really apparent, and it's not just a faceless corporation taking your money, people's demands are a lot and expectations are a lot lower. And people are far more willing to invest themselves into that because they feel a sort of solidarity within that idea and that event and that moment.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we've got the house party thing is happening. What's the catalyst or the step into doing the EYEGUM Wednesdays then? Is that the next kind of edition of it, or was there something in between? The
house parties had started to, like, the venue availability had started to dry up, so we were just flooded with bands who want to play, because why would you play a random venue for 12 people? Can I just there, we'll put a pin in this, like, how did the venues and these things feel about this whole scene growing outside of them? Was it fine? Was there like tension? Was there like... We didn't have a lot of communication with them. We were sort of independent. We were a lot more fuck the venues at the time. And so we just didn't pay them attention. I think it was complicated, and I think some of the venues and some of the people I know who worked at the venues saw that as a challenge for them to lift their game. And so they tried to take part of what we did and incorporate that. So I know that Bodega definitely did, but like there was a complication of like ownership and vibe and not being as closely tied to what's happening. So they were aware, and I think, it was complicated. Yeah. Okay, so but the venues start drying up for the house parties? Yeah, so what was happening was just, why have a big lounge when you can have half a lounge and a new bedroom that you can rent out for $200? So like we were losing flats. We were aging out of the party flat generation. There's always a party flat. We were getting older than the party flat generation. Yeah. So we had less knowledge of where those flats were. They were drying up. The houses we'd historically used were being gentrified. Oh, well, not gentrified. It's not gentrification at all. That's just landlord exploitation. But so that was drying up. And then we also had, like, the team was like a big friend group with me attached onto it. And that fractured over, like, some just sexual abuse stuff between some people. And that fractured the team. People started getting older. So that was all going on. And the Wednesdays at San Fran had sucked. Like, you never knew if the one was going to happen or not. The bands weren't promoting them very well. They often have 3 bands. You wouldn't know if it was happening. The bands were complaining about how hard it was to get paid and what they were being paid. And then the venue side was that the bands just didn't know how to send invoices. So, there's issues on both sides. And so we just went to San Fran and said, hey, we met up with Ziggy at the time, said, hey, this is what we're doing. We can bring this into Wednesdays and make them reliable. Like, people need to know that whatever they're doing, every Wednesday is going to happen. So we had photos. I talked about how when we were using Facebook at that time, you could get hundreds of likes on a photo quite easily. So we'd always take photos. People would love seeing themselves. People love tagging themselves. Yeah. So that was part of what we did. We always had photos. There was a period of time in the indie scene in Wellington where most people's Tinder photos were from EYEGUM house parties. Funny. It was a generation. Yeah. It was a moment for about a year or so. So we just went to San Fran and said, hey, this isn't working. We can make it work. And we did make it work. So we've gone from maybe an average of 100 or so in the first year to 250-ish now every week. Our smallest show ever within our first year was 12 people in July. Now we're getting 150 in July, which is just, people know they're there.
Yeah, and was there a kind of professionalism training, getting bands through that happening every week? It probably got the scene a little bit more locked in because something was happening. They could be a bit more they had to be a bit more onto it. Did it have any kind of business or professionalism effect in the scene?
I don't know. I don't think so. But what I think it did do is it gave a real space to set the week up. So your free Wednesday with $5 beers, we never really advertised the beers. For us, that was really important. Obviously, affordable beers is what a lot of people want. We never advertised it, but we had it. It was part of what we had was the cheap beers, but also not advertising them. You start on a Wednesday at a free show. That opens up the rest of the week. So it's sort of perspective as well. You go to a sweet gig on Wednesday and you're like, cool, what's happening on Thursday, Friday, Saturday? So there's an element of that. And then I think also, given that platform, we're putting on 40 a year, so 80 acts, different acts or so throughout the year. Just showcasing that, getting that. And I look at it now and I reckon our lineups now are a lot stronger. So I think there are more bands. And we have maybe 120, 140 bands applying to play each year. Yeah,
wow. I remember the Pint Night in Dunedin acting
same thing,
same way.
But again, within that's that's being run on a more disconnected, more formulaic thing. And once that was that Starters Bar in Dunedin.
So when I was there, it was Refuel.
Yeah, and it's not valued or centered. Whereas for better or worse, what we're doing, and I mean, part of the thing from an EYEGUM perspective is I didn't get paid doing Wednesdays for the first couple of years, and I realized that we needed to at least take some of the money coming in to pay the organizer for all this volunteer work that's being done in order to replace myself. So that was one of the starting points, is making sure that people came after me got paid, not much, but enough to at least make it nice. Koha honorarium would be the best way of describing it. It's not.
Yeah. Do you remember the first couple of EYEGUM Wednesday shows that happened and you were like, oh, this is cool, it's happening?
Hans Bucket and TAB, that was our first one.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And
what year was that? Do you remember?
2016.
Cool.
Yeah, and I mean, that was Hans Bucket are awesome now. We've booked them. They're headlining San Fran. I think our Great Sounds Great lineup, spoiler, for San Fran is Louisa Nicklin, The Bats, Phoenix Foundation, and Hans Bucket.
Amazing.
Yeah, Hans Bucket started playing on the floor at San Fran for EYEGUM Wednesdays in 2016. So they were awesome then, they're awesome now.
Yeah. Cool.
TAB. Have you come across TAB?
No.
It's like a jazz drummer. And then Yost, who's in Ekare, he was making chiptunes, Game Boy music. And they were amazing. It was I guess, ADHD Disaster Radio
Okay,
with live drums.
Okay, right. Well, yeah, that's a very good description. I can kind of imagine that right now.
They were awesome.
Yeah.
They had an amazing Mint Chicks cover.
Cool. We need to bring Mint Chick covers back.
Gen Z don't care about the Mint Chicks.
There's nothing has made me sadder than that statement.
I realized that about 2 weeks ago. I was like, damn.
How did you realize that?
Well, I was just talking about it. I was like, does anyone care about the Mint Chicks and Gen Z? I was like, no, not. Because, Welcome to Nowhere, we named that after the Mint Chicks. Like there's so many elements within the young and the older millennials. I'm an elder millennial. But within that millennial cohort, the Mint Chicks are just like,
yeah,
wow. For Gen Z, it's just like, nah.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about like how intense the Ringlets fandom is within a select but passionate group of peeps in Wellington. I was like, wow, okay, this is, I don't know if it's at that stage, but this is similar to like the Mint Chicks fandom.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And so when did the seeds of Welcome to Nowhere start happening?
We were linked up with the Chronophonium crew. So I had worked at Campbell O'Hum. I'd done work with Chronophonium. I'd done other work with commercial. I'd worked at commercial. And
when you say work, what do you mean? Doing sound, doing...
A bit of everything.
Bit of everything, cool.
Bit of everything.
Yeah.
I've done most jobs you could do at Campbell O'Hum, and then similar things with Crony. And I could see, so we'd linked up with them. I'd been volunteering, working with them. And then for the last one, they knew that we had a crew of like hardened
criminals,
hardened like DIY crew, who could just come up and just like roll with it. So they were like, hey, can you guys come up and help us with this last epic festival we're putting on? So we did, and we realized at that festival that they were burnt out and this wasn't going to happen again. So if we didn't put something on, we would have no festival the next summer. So that's how Welcome to Nowhere happened. It wasn't some like, oh, we're going to do this.
This needs to keep carrying on.
If we don't do it, nothing's happening.
It's interesting because I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking like, oh, there is like a, the carry on through of like a camping festival for the alternative music scene, and there's a lineage of like it kind of carried on through camp into Chronophobia and then Chronophobia. So it's interesting. It's like, oh, it literally is like a lineage of like, oh yeah, we were there and they weren't going to do it again next year.
So we did it.
We did it.
And then like Welcome to Nowhere is like a synthesis of synthesis of, let's get into some like alleged Marxist theory. There's a whole argument about whether like Marx even believed in thesis, antithesis, then synthesis. But Welcome to Nowhere
is that the dialectic?
That's the dialectic. There's a big yarn. He never wrote directly about that.
We'll do this on the philosophy podcast we're doing after this.
3 hours, Joe Rogan styles. Crony, Welcome to Nowhere was sort of taking elements we liked out of camp and taking elements we liked out of Crony, which were actually quite distinct in different festivals and their ethos and their like vision of themselves. And so we just took out of those two festivals and then sort of built Welcome to Nowhere out of that.
And how was the first year of Welcome to Nowhere? Like, how did it go? Was it a smooth transition from helping out at Chronophobia and then running Welcome to Nowhere?
The Crony peeps brought down bikes without brakes, and a little 10-year-old boy was like riding around on one and trying to show off to like adult women.
Cool.
And then he went down the hill, the hairpin hill.
The hairpin hill, yeah.
So he went down the hairpin, but comes out halfway out and then heads straight towards the swamp, hits a bump, flies in the air, lands face down in the swamp, breaks both his wrists.
Oh my God.
And so our first aid trained security, like lifted him out, and that's when we got walkie-talkies from us out to Monty's house on the phone, figuring out whether we needed the ambulance, the air ambulance or the road ambulance to like get this boy out. A bunch of nurses that we knew who we'd given tickets to were there to like give advice and triage.
Yeah.
So that was the first one.
Yeah.
I almost, to cut corners, just borrowed random PA speakers to make the PA out of.
For the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't. Hired a regular PA, and that was a really good idea.
That was a good idea?
But we did one stage originally.
Yeah, the
top one came later.
The bottom one.
The bottom one, the Mangamahu stage. What's the river called? Anyway, the bottom stage. That was our first one. So we did one stage with that. I was very sort of like anti-camp and like one stage, gaps, no pressure. That's all that's happening.
Yeah.
People can hang around and muck around when they want. I lost the fight over 2 stages, and
and it's just
it was good
gone from there.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's sort of fights you don't relitigate, and at a certain point you go, no, that actually works.
Yeah. No, cool. Yeah, and I think I came to the second one. Or the
Gathering in the
third one.
Forest. There was 2 Gathering in the Forest. We were very theoretical about it. So 2 Gathering in the Forest, then we changed the name to Welcome to Nowhere.
Okay, so I definitely didn't come to Gathering in the Forest.
Yeah. But the first 2 we kind of figured stuff out and then sort of started working from there.
Because it's a whole thing, putting on a festival.
Yeah, you learn a lot. So with parking, shaping parking, how that all works.
Oh, yeah.
Like where to park cars and how to park them. That's actually a big yarn, and that's something we learned over the years. Toilets. So it was in the 3rd year that we really got forced by the council, who were really good.
Yeah.
The council's only demands were that we don't have long drops. I think at our peak we had 11 long drops in the 2nd year, which we preferred. We set them up and they were just much nicer. But they were like, look, we want your food. We want anyone selling food to the public to have a health and safety, a food safety certificate. Not outlandish. And we want portaloos.
Yeah, okay.
That was it. They're very lenient with us. I sent in my first resource consent and it was bad. They sent me Kiwi Burns and said, have a look at this.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And send one back in. So I then plagiarized Kiwi Burns one, took out everything that didn't relate to us, and then just rewrote it to suit us.
Oh, well, that's nice. It's good to hear a system kind of helping.
Well, yeah, and I've seen councils that have hated and been antagonistic with a festival, and I've seen councils that have been friendly. So when they're friendly, you just don't want to fuck with them.
Yeah, no, totally.
But coming back to that, part of the reason the Wanganui District Council were friendly was because of all these people in Wanganui over decades who've been working to build a culturally liberal and progressive space for the arts. So it's not as if we rocked up and council were like, oh, this is good. The work had already been done within council to be like, these sorts of things are important and you should support and prioritize and nurture them, which is definitely what happened.
I had a flashback vision of Anthony Tonnen and his band carrying an entire stage worth of his gear ready down the car parking hill and all the way down to the bottom thing, and just remembering how mad that was.
They found out that we had a quad once I got down to the bottom, and they could have asked. There's nothing worse than pointing that out.
No. How did last Welcome to Nowhere question? But how do you have a story around how the Ty Segall thing happened? Because that was just amazing for me. I'm a huge Ty Segall fan.
We just Banish just went, hey, we're bringing Ty through. Do you want to do it? We probably paid too much, but Ben in particular was like, I want to make this happen, which is not, from a negotiating perspective, is not. You shouldn't go in a negotiation horny for a band. What? We get Ty Segall and we only have to pay whatever?
Yeah.
Wow. Lucky us.
Yeah.
Don't go horny into negotiations.
It was so magical, though. It was I had never seen him. I would have gone anywhere to see him. I had tickets to the Raglan show, actually, and I just didn't go because I was like, well, I'm seeing it at Welcome to Nowhere, and being able to see it in that space, that is just a perfect place to enjoy music, I think, outside.
Bro, we got the Tech Rider, and they wanted a Rhodes, a vintage Rhodes, and a vintage clavinet. Is that the one? Actual physical key, but they go out of tune really easily. I was like, look, Nords have Rhodes and clavinet patch. We can get 2 Nords, and they will work a charm. But yeah, no, this is on the right, and we want this. And of course, the clavinet was way out of tune, so we're having to do all this tech work to make it work.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I wish we could have just used a Nord.
One of those things where I'm I'm glad I was in the crowd and not in the festival for that.
But that was they were blown away as well. Because, when you're on the tour, you fly in, go to your hotel, play a show, have some food, play a show, go back to your hotel, fly out the next day. Every venue, functionally, they start seeing the same. They were just... And because they were only able to be there for 5-6 hours, but they were... It was so refreshing for them, which was cool.
Last little bit, let's talk about Great Sounds Great, because this will come out before it, definitely.
Touch wood.
I think I'll just put it out next week. But then I'll also talk to Ben closer to.
Yeah.
He's coming down with
Goya and EG.
Yes. So we'll talk about it again, but it's good to talk about now because
Well, his take and my take are similar but different.
tickets are on sale now. You can
Yes.
buy tickets. Go
We
along
should.
if you want. You should.
We sold 20 the other day. We were so stoked.
It's amazing.
Some days, like, after your first couple of days, so the way that a festival or like a big gig works is you get a big bump, and sometimes you sell out. Most often you don't. But you get a big bump the first day or two, first couple of days, and then it goes right down.
Yeah.
Just sales,
Triples.
5. So we started... So last year we did 40 in the first day. This year we did 90, I believe.
Oh, cool.
Real good. And then like you're back down to like 5, 2, 1.
Yeah.
So we got 20 the other day, which was like, how do we do this? Can we repeat this?
Yeah.
No, we can't. We don't know why we've sold this many, but we're stoked we did.
And so how did the seed for Great Sounds Great happen? How did that evolve
We liked Others Way, and we would rather go to an Others Way
in Wellington?
in Wellington.
Basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so, like, we just looked at the first couple of posters for Others Way and just went, okay, this is where we're starting. This is what they did. Cool. How do we do that? And we did our first thing, which wasn't intentional, but really proved. So we had this idea. We're like, man, Wellington really needs an Others Way type festival. And a lot of people said that for like 10, 15 years. And we had this whole thing. You need a resource consent. You need to deal with crowds, all this stuff. We had this real too over complex idea. We had a gig we put on that we called End of Year Fuck Year, which is very hard to promote on Facebook, at Valhalla and San Fran. And what we learned from that's just 2 stages.
Yeah.
People just
And they're
walk on
so
the footpath.
close. It's so close down there.
There's no toilets, there's no parking, there's no food. It's Cooper Street, you're fine.
Yeah.
So, and people just walk between. Also, we sold 450 tickets to that one, but there were never more than 300 people in San Fran. So that was a lesson as well, because people are always on the move. People are floating around. Some people are hanging out for their particular band at Valhalla. Some people are hanging out for their particular band at San Fran. So there's a bunch of stuff from that. And we went, these are just stages. We can just book everywhere. And now we've got more stages.
Yeah.
So that's how Great Sounds Great started.
Yeah, cool. How? Last question, because you've been very generous with your time. From 2013 through to now, how has like promoting shows and it, in an effort to sell tickets to those shows changed? Is it the same? Is it more difficult now? Is it just different? Like, what's your perspective on that?
I think it's just changed. The struggle is getting in front of people, and that's what's changed. But then if you talk to someone like Ian Blink, he says that he reckons, well, I know from having seen it, that he did for a year and a half, 3 weeks out of every 4, he was doing his a low hum tours, and he'd take 2 to 3 bands and be touring every weekend, 3 weekends out of every 4 for like a year and a half, 18 months or so, thereabouts. And yeah, he says it was much easier back then. He puts it down to the golden age of TV, that since that point, it's gotten harder. People have more reason not to go out. So that's interesting. I wasn't promoting gigs at that point, so I can't point to that because we're already in this broad phase. But I think it's watching Facebook change and the frameworks for promotion. I think that's been the biggest adaptation that you've had to make. It's also trying to reach out beyond the hardened core of gig goers. And I think there's a much wider, deeper question of people in Aotearoa going out more, going to gigs more, being prepared to spend $50, $40, $100 at a bar on drinks, but being like $20. Although having said that, I would say, as someone who's been, so I started going, this is gonna date me well. I started sneaking to gigs when I was 15 in 2000 and 1.
Cool.
I was 15, and I grew a little pencil moustache, and I had a turtleneck sweater, but felt very old and mature. But I would always do the door. So I never got ID'd because you don't ID the guy on the door. So like, there used to be cops all the time in Wellington. You don't see them like then. 8 cops would just like march through, be like eyeing people up, IDing people periodically. I'd be like, hey boys, they'd walk in. I'm 15.
Yeah.
They walk out, see you boys. They'd like grunt as they went out. And so, yeah, I've been doing the door since 2001.
Yeah.
And like, I ran a pretty hectic door last night at the Crown. I'd say in the last couple of years, people are arguing less about paying $20
Really?
to come into a show. I'm arguing less with people. Like, these are bands. Like, we've paid $2,000 for flights to come down to the South Island.
It's $20.
That's why it's $20, bro.
Yeah.
There's 2 bands. They're awesome. They're going to be big. You're going to be like, wow, I saw these bands at this point in time. $20.
Yeah.
I do that less than I did a couple of years ago. But, I mean, it's still a struggle. If you don't have the band that everyone wants to see right now, everyone leaves it till late, and you're really battling to convince people to come out. So I think maybe that dichotomy has gotten worse. And that ties back into, like, festival shows. And our first festival, like, we're stupidly priced it at 60. And then I think we raised it to 80 about halfway through because it was just mad. And then our last festival where we lost $30,000, that was $275. And like, we're still losing money. So it's not as we're like, we're like raking it in. But this shit has gotten so much more expensive. And then, like, headlining shows, I saw the Lord one's $179. And I'm like, that's not a bad price. It's pretty reasonable. But that sucks out. And I think there was a really interesting back and forth between Chris Schultz
and Ben
Howe.
I saw that on Substack.
Being like, those gigs suck money out of the New Zealand economy and suck money out of the local entertainment. And it's hard to do because we can't just shut it down and say you can only see New Zealand acts like what happened during COVID. But people prioritize them to see those big shows that they know are good over the shows they don't know are good. Our godforsaken, beautiful local indie shows. I think that's a real issue, and you'll get it. One of San Fran's main shows, especially at this time of the year, is like Taylor Swift club nights. Taking Back Saturday, which was like an emo punk, like 2000s revival show with just DJs spinning tunes. Chaperone night, which is playing like, those are big at San Fran because people pay to go in. My mate Bernie, he does his disco You Should Be Dancing nights. He can get 600 people through at San Fran, capacity of 450.
Yeah, see, that's my whole thing of like, it's people come for the experience, and I think that's we're really good at selling. We're going to see some of the best bands in New Zealand tonight.
Yeah.
But people don't if you're not just dedicated to hearing really good music, there's kind of not a lot else you would get out of
There's
this
a lot of ifs and maybes about showing up. And I think I've always talked about, at a gig, you're trying to add as many why nots as possible to in someone's head. Why not? So like a Wednesday, it's free. Why not? There's a $5 beer. Why not? The curation is pretty solid. They're not going to suck. And so I think there's a big issue in people's heads about spending money on something that might not be good and not being comfortable just being like, why not? So I think if there's a big question around that, and you start getting to taxation policy and European arts funding policy discussions.
We'll do that in the philosophy podcast.
Our 3-hour Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Joel, thank you so much for your time today.
Cheers.
Cheers. Should we tap microphones?
I guess they've got the little windshield, so it's like,
that's
as
the new
a 58, so like I mean, this isn't gonna like. It's not dented as well. Like
No.
TM58s. Do you find they have heaps of like handling noise?
Oh yeah, they're
I got
shit. These are the worst.
$50.
Yeah, there's a lot of post processing going on right now.
Oh, God, yeah.